All right, everybody, so I'm going to begin. So today's web training is really going to be based upon how to select the best suited plan for your clients. Many a times, I find that we just don't know which plan to pick. And today what I really want to do is I want to go through some of the real key factors that you need to address when you are selecting a plan and really how to pick that best suited plan. Now, there are a lot of opportunities that you're going to be dealing with when you're selecting a plan, and you just have to make sure that you have all of the best interest of your clients in mind at all times. Now, many of you know the presentation. I would hope all of us know a presentation and a solid presentation that you're doing on a regular basis, and you really must make sure that you're asking all the appropriate questions. And the way that we really start this conversation, the way that you really start building this relationship as well as the ability to pick the best suited plan is by asking poignant questions more about lifestyle than about insurance itself. So what I mean is that you need to separate yourself from the call centers of this world. You are an agent that has your client's lifestyle and what they do on a daily basis in mind. Because if you don't listen and assess the appropriate information, there's no reason that they're going to do business with you. Now, when we're asking these questions, we want to ask questions about lifestyle. Now, what these questions will do is not only will they help you set up ancillary product sales as you're going through your presentation, but it will give you some other things to talk about that will interest the clients. Okay? It'll give other things to talk about for your clients, such as what they do in their spare time. Because if you learn that, the husband or the wife likes to play flag football, now you know that you can talk about an accident medical expense rider. If you know that there are things like cooking is probably one of their favorite pastimes to do, well, then you've set up an accident medical expense rider. What do the kids do for fun? Do they play sports? Are they playing taekwondo? What kind of things interest them? And does your family like to travel? Just some very basic questions that you want to get through and get points across to in the beginning as you're getting to know your clients. But you have to listen to what they tell you. And as they tell you these different areas of their life that are important to them and different things that they do in their fun and their fun time is going to make sure that you're appropriately picking the correct plan. Also, what do people do for work? Okay, now, we had a conversation the other day with a gentleman, and the gentleman was an HVAC person, meaning that he's doing heating and air conditioning. He works for himself. He's a self-employed individual. Well, at that point, he's walking himself into, by just telling us what he does, to a sale on an accident medical expense policy. Because what happens if he's up on a ladder and he falls off the ladder and he ends up needing to go to the hospital? And these are the types of conversations that you need to extract from your clients by asking poignant questions, by asking leading questions. And this is just regular life. And what we need to do is we make sure that we're addressing regular day in and day life about what people do, what interests them, what do their kids do, do they ride a bicycle, do you know what the most dangerous sport in America is? These questions we've covered in all of our other trainings really start to come together as you listen to your clients. And as they tell you different areas of their life, things that they like to do, well, at that point, in your mind, you should be beginning to layer in those products and layer that into a conversation as opposed to just a sales pitch. Okay? And when you're making a presentation on the product itself, when we're delivering that product at that point, now you're using the things that they've told you that you've listened to in the very beginning to make sure that you are addressing their needs in the appropriate plan selection. So one of the first things that we want to do is, with the changes that have come through on Monday, now that we now have a release of our Blue Care Network on an individual basis, which is very exciting, we need to identify the network. Okay? And when we say that we identify the network, what we need to do is look at and ask them, what doctors do you like to see? And you need to do this. Now, previously, you wouldn't do this right in the beginning, shall we say. But now, with the option of 3 different networks in many of the major markets in Florida, At this point, we want to ask, Mrs. Jones, who is your gynecologist? Who are the children's pediatrician? And we need to identify each of those doctors. We also want to identify the hospitals that are in their area that they would like to see. Now, in doing so, this is going to give you an opportunity to possibly select a different plan that you might have overlooked. For example, if you're talking to someone in the Hillsborough or Pinellas County area, then we may be looking at a Blue Select plan. If you're in Broward, you may want to look at a Blue Select plan. These other networks of physicians that will have a lower cost basis. Okay? So first thing we're going to do is identify the network. So when we identify the network, we want to talk a little bit about how we do that. Now I want to run through really quickly, how do we identify the network and how do you guys see that? Okay? So let's take a quick look at the provider search, because I know that this gets overlooked on a regular basis. So what we need to do is when we get to our provider search, which is located on the Blue Cross Blue Shield Florida Blue website, at the bottom, find a doctor and more. You should have this set up for yourself as a favorite. You're going to bring you to this main searchable screen. So let's just say we were looking for Dr. Greenberg. And Dr. Greenberg is a primary care physician. And let's search for the entire state. Let's just say that there was no preference. Now, at this point, it's going to search for all of the doctors that are primary physicians in the state of Florida that are going to be located in all of our networks, because we have not specified a type of insurance plan. Now, as this is going to come through, it did give me an error, so let's try that again. What it will do is it will then spit out to us the doctors, Mr. Greenberg, Dr. Greenberg, excuse me, primary care facilities in the state of Florida. So here we go. So now, as we look at Dr. Michael Greenberg, located in Coconut Creek, over on the right-hand side here, you will see all of the different plans that this particular physician would take. So, as we all should know very clearly, our Network Blue option is going to be our Blue Options program. Okay? So when you see that Network Blue there, you know that he is going to take all of our Blue Options programs. But if we were looking to see if this particular physician took Blue Select, we do not see Blue Select listed here. Therefore, he would not be an in-network physician for Blue Select. However, we can also identify at this point in time that he does take the Blue Care Network, and that would be the release of 723 that came out with our Blue Care products. So this particular physician, if we were speaking to a client, and this client said that, yes, I see Dr. Greenberg, I would be able to know, after I assess that Michael Greenberg is their physician, that I'd be able to look at both the Blue Care products as well as our Blue Options products. Okay? Now just be mindful, he does take the Hospital Surgical Plus plans as well under the Blue Options umbrella. But he would not take the Blue Select Hospital Surgical plan. So he just does not take that network. You must be mindful when you're talking to folks that we are identifying the networks and we're identifying where these doctors fall into. And if you don't take a few minutes to go through that, you're not giving yourself an opportunity to potentially offer someone a lower cost product where you would be able to increase benefits or potentially lower price. So let's talk a little bit about choosing that network. Now, some doctors, as you will also know, do have multiple doctors within an office. And it is your job to also identify if there are multiple doctors in an office, to Google the office, look up the office, and see if there's any other doctors in that facility. And you may even have to go one extra step to call the doctor's office and confirm. You want to make sure that you ask if they are an in-network doctor for each of the particular plans. For example, I may make a phone call to Dr. Suarez in Miami, and I may want to ask him, are you in network for Blue Care with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Florida, Florida Blue? I don't want to ask them, do you take Blue Cross? Because then they may be billing out of network benefits, therefore putting your clients in a precarious situation for a higher out-of-pocket expense. But by identifying the network, you may be able to lower that price for your client. So doing your due diligence in the beginning, after you identify the doctors and you do a search for them with the client, you are lending both credibility as well as showing that you are and have access to a full professional network of physicians. So it is very important that you check those networks and then you understand the savings as well. So let's just quickly identify what these three options are going to be. Oh my goodness, I spelled network incorrectly. Well, first thing that you have is Blue Options. Blue Options is our nationwide network with both outside the U.S. and inside the U.S. from all Blue Cross Blue Shield providers treated as in-network. So what does that mean? Well, that means that if my son would be living in New York and he has a Florida Blue policy, he's going to get treated from a Blue Cross Blue Shield provider in New York the same as he's going to get that treatment here in Florida, as long as he's seeing a Blue Cross Blue Shield provider and he has purchased the Blue Options program. If I go out of the state and I am outside the state and I am outside the country even, for example, Jamaica, and I have on vacation in Jamaica, I have a Blue Options plan, and while I'm in Jamaica, I need to go see a physician. As long as I'm seeing a Blue Cross Blue Shield provider, then I'm going to get the same treatment inside and outside of that area. So you really must be conscious. If our clients are traveling, and they do a lot of nationwide traveling, they spend their summers in Michigan, or they spend 3 weeks out of the year in a different location, please be conscious and select the Blue Options network. Now as we look at the Blue Select, we are going to have savings on the Blue Select programs over and above the Blue Options plans. And that savings is going to come at a price. Now, what we give up when we go to the Blue Select program is that under a Blue Select program, I will have out-of-network benefits. Therefore, I can go to a doctor outside the state of Florida. I can go to a doctor abroad, whether they take Blue Cross or not. I may and probably will not get the same favorable treatment as I would under the Blue Options plan. I will be billed out of network once I leave the state. Now, the Blue Select program, available in some of our major markets in Florida, is a great opportunity for you because, again, you're going to be saving your clients money. But, again, be mindful. If I spend 2 weeks out of the year in New York visiting my mother, well, then the Blue Select network might not be a bad option for me because the savings can be significant, especially as we look at some larger family dynamics. Now, the Blue Care network, our latest released network on an individual basis, which has been around for a long time, you will receive no coverage except for emergency room treatment when you leave the state. If I go for a moment out of the state and I am in Alabama and I need to go see a doctor, I better cross the border and come back into Florida to get medical treatment. The only coverage that I have when I leave the state of Florida is emergency treatment only at a hospital. Urgently needed care, not going to be covered unless I go to the hospital. So you must be mindful of that when you're selecting these networks. So our Blue Options plans are going to be what we always sell. It's going to be the thing that people talk about all the time, the same treatment that you get favorably in and out of the state of Florida, all over the country, Puerto Rico, and abroad. Blue Select, you will be out of network. And because you're going to be going out of network and you have a smaller selection of doctors within the state of Florida, that price is going to be reduced. Therefore, you may be able to select a richer benefit plan, for example, a lower deductible, or you may be able to just pass cost savings on to your clients, freeing up some room for ancillary product sales as well, such as critical illness and accident. If you're looking at the Blue Care Network, you will be able to as well significantly increase benefits because it can be an even more benefit-rich program. And under that scenario, your clients must understand that once they leave the state of Florida, they do not have coverage except for emergency treatment. But it could quite honestly be the difference between going from a $10,000 deductible to a $7,500 deductible or $5,000 on Blue Select to a $3,000 deductible on Blue Care. And many a times, if the client is not traveling or is not concerned about these different areas, then in that capacity, those other selections may be valued. Now, when we're saving that money and we're increasing the benefits, it behooves you to make sure that you're checking and make sure that you're addressing that with your clients. So now that we've addressed the network when we're selecting a plan and when we're talking to our clients, let's talk about choosing the plan itself. Because it is one thing to choose the network. That should take you all of 30 seconds to have that conversation with your client. And it is simple as, do you travel much? How much time do you spend out of Florida? Do you want the flexibility to go to any doctor that you want? And many people are going to say yes. But when you pass on $130 or $140 a month savings, it may be an opportunity that they say, well, I don't need my flexibility that much. So now we need to choose the plan. And when we're choosing a plan, we must identify the people that we're talking to. Now, as we're identifying the people that we're talking to, we all have to understand that our lady clients, and this really comes from, men are from Mars, girls are from Venus. We are all polar opposite in the grand scheme of things. And we have to understand that ladies love predictable cost plans. Okay? Men love a low price. So let's address that. So why do the ladies love a predictable cost plan? Well, because typically mom is taking little Bobby to the doctor, and she wants to know exactly what she's going to pay when little Bobby has a problem. If little Bobby needs a throat culture, what am I going to pay? If I go to the dermatologist, what am I going to pay? If I go get an MRI, what am I going to pay? That's because the lady of the house is many a times taking care of those things. And that set dollar amount is a luxury. It's like having power windows in your car, okay? Which nowadays, everybody's got power windows. I don't even think they make a car without power windows, but it is that concept of being able to know that when somebody gets something going on with them in the family, that's what they're going to pay. On top of that, our female clients will typically spend a little bit more time in the doctor's office than our men clients. Now, for the ladies, they are going to get their annual examination at no cost. But up until healthcare reform really started kicking through, this was an inherent cost. And it is going to take a few years before these things start to change and migrate from a thought perspective. But you must identify that and know if you're talking to mom or know if you're talking to a female client, the deductible is not as important as the copays. You could select a plan that's got a $10,000 deductible, but as long as it's got the copays, then that would be more appealing to many of our female clients. Men love a low price. You're speaking with one of your male clients, and he's going to ask you, I want to know the bottom line, what's my maximum out of pocket, and how much is it going to cost me? And you must clearly identify that when you're talking to your male clients because it is really important. And when you're doing your product presentation as well, and when you're talking about the plan, Mr. Jones, I just want to let you know that this is going to be a $5,000 max out of pocket, and the price is going to be $180 a month. If we move it to a $10,000 max out of pocket, it's going to go down a little bit. You'll be about $140 a month. Which would you like? And I am oversimplifying it, of course, but it's truly the care of the male of the household, or even on their own, to want to know what is their max out of pocket and give me your lowest price. All of the bells and whistles aren't as appealing to most of our male clients. Now, I am making a major generalization here, but at the same time, it is something that you have to understand when doing plan selection. Lastly, when you're choosing a plan, we all must be mindful that children need copays. I see more and more, we're writing policies that are hospital surgical based policies with children on that, and they have no copays. We must clearly understand that if your child or you have a child on a plan, we want to do the most that as much as we possibly can to instruct our clients that they want to have a plan for copays or predictable costs for the children. Well, why is that? Well, my son is 5 years old, and he goes to school, and he's around a bunch of 20 other children that are having sniffles, or comes down with the common cold, or somebody's got an earache, or somebody passes on bronchitis to him. And if that's the case, I want to make sure that if I go to the doctor, it is not going to cost me house or home to go there. For you to increase the policy to a predictable cost plan for the children is something that, in my professional opinion, needs to be done. As the children get older, then this can be migrated to a different style of plan. But I can clearly tell you that if you have to take a child to a dermatologist or an ENT or a specialist, for that client to have to come out of pocket $120, $130, $140, even $300 or $400 for a one-visit deal, you are going to have a very unhappy client, and you can be looking to have a cancellation, or worse, them call you to increase the benefits because the child has been sick, and now you can't even change that policy. Now, I know many of you are saying, oh, well, children are guaranteed issue. It's no big deal. Well, you could have had a policy that was standard issue with no rate up. Now little Johnny has been diagnosed with juvenile diabetes, and he needs to go to the doctor on a regular basis. You wrote them a 570. The call comes through. I want to switch to a 504. Now you're talking about a 300% rate up. That's scenario one. Scenario two. Mom and dad become uninsurable. Baby ends up with juvenile diabetes. Now you can't change anybody's plan because there has to be a parent on the policy. They are going to have to go back through underwriting. And if mom or dad can't pass underwriting under that particular policy, well, then neither can the child. So please be conscious. Please be conscious of plan selection for children, and don't be quick to sell on the price. Sell on the benefits. Now, we can take it one step further. This becomes a little bit more of an aggressive sale and a great tactic as you become a little more savvy with the plans and as you become more savvy with the tools that we offer in our organization. One of the best things that I like to do is to mix and match plans, allocating proper plans for proper allocation of money. Now, that sounds like a lot of mumbo jumbo, but what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is, let's just say that I'm talking to a husband, a wife, and 2 children living in Hillsborough County. Now, I can clearly identify that the husband doesn't go to the doctor much. The husband does not like to go to the doctor. He's going to have to be dragged there kicking and screaming. The wife, she likes to go to the doctor whenever she has a problem. She's going to go to the doctor, and she's going to be dealing with 2 children at 15 years of age that are going to end up with an earache, that are going to end up needing to go to the doctor with a problem, sore throat or bronchitis or something to that capacity. Now, when we're looking at that, we want to make sure that we pick and choose the plans appropriately. So what would most of us do? Well, most of us would simply say, I'm going to give them a 533. Well, let's take it one step further from there. Let's just say that we did a 533 for the whole family. We've got a $5,000 deductible. We've identified that the family is active, 15-year-olds, one's cheerleading, one's playing football, somebody's playing soccer. We need an accident plan because they leave the house. And if you leave the house, you need to do that. We've identified that both husband and wife are in their 40s. Those of you that are recalling 40, 40, 40, we need $40 worth of critical illness. So let's just say we shoot it a little lower and we do $20 worth of critical illness for mom, $20 worth of critical illness for dad. We've got a total policy premium for the 533 for the whole family of $553. Now, if we take that same example and we give a 570 for dad and a Go Blue for dad, removing that from the 533 to this other plan selection, we are going to save the family $53 a month. That's a great savings. That's a great savings to be able to pass on to your clients by just simply saying, hey, how do you treat your medical? Are you going to go to the doctor? No, I'm not. Well, I'm going to add the accident medical expense policy for you because that way you have Call MD. You can call the doctor if you have an earache, Dad. But you know what? I know you're going to want to take the kids to the doctor if there's something wrong and get that treatment. So what we're doing now is we're allocating funds correctly. We're able to free up some money. And if you hadn't originally added the critical illness and hadn't originally added the accident protection, well, now you've just freed up $50 a month to add either or. You're talking a $50 a month savings. Now, with this particular time, I've taken it one step further. This is a Hillsborough County family, so let's just say that I've identified their doctors, and now I can go from the 533 to a Blue Select 221. Now, that Blue Select 221, those of you that are familiar, is exactly the same as a 533, every nook and cranny. The only difference being is the network of physicians. Let's say they travel up to New Jersey for the summers. They like to spend the summer up there. They're not worried about going to the doctor up there. They'll still have their emergency care. Now, if I did that with the same exact policy, the 221, I get a $70 savings over my original 533 for the whole family. Now I can introduce this policy of a 221 with critical illness, with accident coverage. A mirror policy on the Blue Options Network is $70 more expensive because I've clearly identified the network. I've identified that the doctors are in-network. If I want to take it one step further from that, I can even raise Dad's deductible from a $250 deductible to a $1,000 deductible, going to a 571. Again, allocating the way that they treat their medical. If I do the 221 for the mom and kids, a 571 for dad, throw that Go Blue on, keep the accident coverage in there, keep the critical illness, now I'm getting their policy premium down to $435 a month, just over $100 per person for great major medical coverage with copays for all the children, with the insurance type that people are going to use allocated for the people that are going to use it. So what you're able to do at that point is save even more significantly the amount of money that the family is going to be able to have in their pocket, or free that up for dental, free that up for life insurance. We could add $20 worth of life insurance at this point. We could add a dental policy for the family and still be well within range of where we were originally compared to the 533. The difference in savings is very significant. And many a times I think we just forget because we go straight to the 533. We go straight to one plan with everybody on it without listening, without taking the time to properly allocate how everybody treats their medical, and you're possibly giving your clients an opportunity not to save $70 a month. Now, put that money back into their budgets. You can save your clients money by using all of the plans. Okay? You have so many plans to choose from. We have our Blue Options, our Blue Select, Blue Care as well. I'm taking into consideration only PPOs for this example. I'm not even illustrating what we could do with the Blue Care. But by knowing the plans, by knowing the networks, passing that savings on is going to be able to then free up more money for your clients to be able to spend it where else they need it. For example, I've got two 15-year-old children in my household, and I don't have enough life insurance. That $70 a month that you're saving can be allocated to them for life insurance planning. So there are many ways that we can use these proper networks and plan selection by looking at the networks, and making sure that you are properly putting people in the right plan. So I get asked the question a lot, when do I sell a hospital surgical plan or a hospital surgical plus? You know, if your clients are knowledgeable about this and they understand exactly what they're getting, then they are good options, okay? You also want to be aware that you can save your clients even more money because Blue Select also has hospital surgical plus plans, again, in our certain major networks. So are these good plans, and who are they good for? They're absolutely good plans. When we compare them to a hospital surgical with United Healthcare or one of the other carriers, we are leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else when it comes to hospital surgical plans. However, no one really wants a hospital surgical plan as they dig into the policy. It's great for a catastrophic situation, but you have to be conscious and mindful that none of the follow-up care is going to be covered on these plans. That these plans are fantastic if you're looking for that catastrophic solution, but when it comes to the doctor visits, when it comes to the follow-up care, rehabilitation, those are not going to be covered. I used an example the other day when I was doing a little training, is cancer treatment. So underneath a hospital surgical plan, you're absolutely going to get covered with cancer, your cancer treatment, your chemo, your radiology, all of that is going to be covered under the plan. That's fine and dandy. However, the cancer medications that you may be taking as an outpatient later on that are not administered by the physician are going to be out-of-pocket expenses. Those out-of-pocket expenses are not limited by your deductible and your maximum out-of-pocket on the policy. And you must understand that. We also are going to be doing a training over the next day or so regarding the details about these hospital surgical plans. And when it comes to out-of-pocket expenses in an emergency room for non-surgical benefits, when it comes to these types of hospitalizations, the out-of-pocket expenses are large. They are good for someone who's looking to bridge the gap, who just tells you, you know what, I only want the catastrophic coverage. I don't care about any of the other things. And you do your due diligence to say, listen, for a few dollars more, even if we have a higher deductible, even if I did a $10,000 deductible for you, you'd be in better hands than if you had just a hospital surgical. You're not going to be in better hands for the small, $2,000 surgery or $3,000 surgery, but you are going to be in better hands if something catastrophic happens. And you need the follow-up care, the occupational therapy, the rehabilitation, and so on. So just don't be so quick to go to these plans. Make sure that your clients understand the shortcomings in these plans and let them make the final determination. If someone tells you they just want the least expensive policy that they get their hands on, you can absolutely introduce this hospital surgical program or style plan to them. Just make sure that they know what the limitations are. Because there are many limitations as far as their out-of-pocket expenses are not capped off once they hit their max out-of-pocket. If I pick a $570 plan and I hit my $2,500 max out-of-pocket and then I go to the doctor because I need a follow-up visit and it's not related to the surgery or the hospitalization, he just wants to see me 6 months from now, I'm paying for that out-of-pocket. And understand that. A lot more popularity these plans are growing because of the competitive nature of our landscape. It does get people insured. It's great for our 50-something people who are not looking to go to the doctor and still thinking they're invincible. I would absolutely not, in any way, shape, or form, I would not sell a hospital surgical plan to a child due to the fact that those follow-up care and those plan changes to a richer policy may be limited or may not be available based upon continuing health assessment as time goes on. So be mindful of that and make sure that your clients understand it. After you've disclosed all this information to them and they know what the deal is, then at that point you can always write the hospital surgical, but just be aware of the limitations. From a price standpoint, you're not going to get anything better. No one is going to touch you in the marketplace if they're looking at price. If someone is shopping around and they're looking at an Aetna policy with a $10,000 deductible and $12,500 worth of out-of-pocket, your hospital surgical plan is going to have a deductible half the size for the same price, if not lower. So be mindful of that, but don't always just go to it. Probably the second most popular question that I get on a regular basis is going to be about HSA plans. Now, we've gone over HSA plans and other trainings, which are all available online. Definitely check them out if you haven't. But HSA programs are fantastic. They are absolutely wonderful. And you have to make sure that you can address this to the appropriate audience. It's really nice, but it's not nice for someone who's got an 8-year-old or a 5-year-old who's going to be running back and forth to the doctor. Unless, of course, that person is independently wealthy, they've got the money on the side, they're not worried about spending $100 here, $100 there, because under the parameters of that HSA plan, it's going to be one deductible, and then after that, it's all going to be covered at 100%. Outside of our 640, 641 plans, which have coinsurance, the typical plan on an HSA is 100% coverage after the deductible. All of our family members contributing to one bucket. But the problem with the HSA for children is that they are going to pay out of pocket for all types of medical services. If I come down with a sickness or illness and I'm going to have an MRI that's not related to an accident, well, in that scenario, that may be $400 or $500 out of pocket, who not everybody has laying around. But these are great for self-employed families, self-employed individuals. I think it's very good for clients with a good, strong health history, no concerns about doctor visits. And the nice thing about it is that when somebody says to you, I want a catastrophic style program, don't always go straight to a hospital surgical. Introduce the HSA first and saying to them, I can give you a plan that's got a $6,000 deductible. If heaven forbid you should hit that, you're covered at 100% for everything, including drugs. And then go to the hospital surgical plan if that's too much money for them. But what you'll seriously be doing is limiting your financial liability of your clients. It is going to be more expensive if they've got a good health history. I get a lot of clients that are in their 40s that love these HSA style plans. Their kids are now 19 or 20 or in school. Their kids are on their own programs. We're able to write a different policy for the children, and mom and dad can go on an HSA because they're not really worried about it. Because what you're doing is you are dictating to them exactly what their maximum out-of-pocket is going to be. More so than with a predictable cost plan. Because with a predictable cost plan, you're still going to have out-of-pocket expenses when it comes to drugs. So talk about our HSA plans. Make sure that they understand the tax ramifications of these plans, that they are going to get favorable tax treatment. There is a way for them to kind of put some money on the side for their family's medical. Utilize these plans for your healthy families, people who you can have a good, conscious conversation with about their total liability. But someone who is just saying, I want something inexpensive, this is not necessarily the solution, but this is going to seriously protect the total financial burden of your clients. Now, I have always been a huge HSA sales. I love HSAs. I've had them for years for myself. Up until my son was born, I had an HSA. Always had a $2,500 HSA program. But I always had the rest of my family on copay plans because I always knew that my ex was always going to want to go to the doctor, and I didn't want to have to deal with it. Let her have her copay. When my son was born, I put him on a predictable cost plan because I knew he was going to be running to the doctor. I knew that these things were going to happen. But HSA plans have a place in the market, and they are still very strong. When we're talking about the newly released Blue Care programs, I want you all to examine the Blue Care rates on the HSAs. If you've already sat through the Blue Care training, then you will know that they are significantly less expensive. If I am quoting a 623 to a family, the same family that I did before, okay, if I quoted that policy, I would be at $531 a month. That's the same last example, family of 4. That's taking out the ancillary protection, family of 4 at $531 per month. If I switch that network to the Blue Care network, there is a 30% chance of savings, and that particular policy, exactly identical outside the network, goes down to $372 a month. Did I hear a gasp? Because that is a huge savings. It is exactly the same policy outside the fact of the network. So now with these newly introduced HSAs under the Blue Care umbrella, start looking at them more. Start talking about them more. Your compensation is good on them, the policy is sound, and there are enough savvy people out there, and the people that we talk to and work with are understanding these plans. You also have to have a good understanding that these plans always used to be, 5-6 years ago, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Blue Options HSAs were the most aggressively priced HSAs in the market. Blue Care puts us right back there again, and no one will be able to touch this. Adding the ancillary product of an accident medical expense and a critical illness policy to a Blue Care HSA, you're able to still save these people hundreds of dollars on a monthly basis, adding more coverage than they've had previously and lowering their deductibles. So it's very important that you're talking about the Blue Care HSAs and understanding that our knowledgeable clients can understand these HSA plans and the HSA accounts, and they need to be talked about over and above and before you introduce the hospital surgical because of the level of coverage that they're giving up if they take that hospital surgical. So in closing, I want to kind of go over a few things, and I want you to be aware that we have a lot of programs. There are so many programs under the Blue Cross Blue Shield umbrella, it can make your head spin. Take them one at a time and be aware of these plans. There is a cheat sheet that's located in the training folder. Print that up and keep it on your desk. That is going to be updated with all the Blue Care programs over the weekend. Be aware that of these plans. Take the time to listen to your clients. Find out about things that they do outside of their day-to-day work. Find out what they do in life. Find out what their hobbies are. And pair the plan based upon their needs. If dad gets dragged to the doctor kicking and screaming and he doesn't always want to go, then don't give him a 504. Make sure that you address the needs, the use of the medical, how often they go to the doctor, to the product. Don't just pick it, and if you are going to just pick a program, shoot high. Don't start with a hospital surgical plan. Don't start with a 535, because once you start with the lower cost plans, it is going to be very difficult for you to climb up that ladder and show them a better plan. So it is important that you don't just, I call it dropping your pants. And if you are going to do that, make sure that you're showing them a benefit-rich program. Don't assume. When a client asks you, I want a low deductible, ask them, what is a low deductible for you? When a client says, I want a low price, ask them, what do you mean by a low price? Give me an idea. There are so many plans, there are so many networks, that you don't want to assume that what I think is a low deductible is the same thing that you think is a low deductible. What I think is a low price may not be a low price to you. For example, if I am in Miami and I am paying $1,100 a month for my family's health insurance coverage, and you say, I want a low price, $1,000 or under $1,000 may be a low price for me. Why would I show you a 573 plan that's only a few $100s a month when it's not nearly the benefits that are important to you? You're solely basing it on that statement, but you need to better understand what that means. A low deductible. A $10,000 deductible, for all of you that are listening, is not a low deductible. Don't start with a low deductible, but asking them, what is a low deductible for you? And the reason why we ask what's a low deductible to you is because, we understand that a $1,000 deductible is a low deductible, but the other person on the phone may think a $250 deductible is a low deductible, or a $500 deductible is a low deductible, and a plan 510 may not be affordable for them. A $1,500 deductible may seem like a high deductible to somebody. So somebody says the reverse. I really don't want a high deductible. And you start with a 528. That may be high to them. And now you've just shot yourself in the foot. So take your time and listen. Don't assume. And absolutely don't start with the least expensive plan you've got. I can't say that enough, because the least expensive plan is going to be the plan that once you show them to them, that's what they're going to want. You tell me about a plan that's $60 a month, and then you say, well, I want to go to a $100 a month plan. Let me show you the benefits. That's okay. I'll just take the $60. Difference between a BMW and a Toyota. Make sure you just don't start as low as you possibly can. And how do you avoid that is by you sell on the benefits, not the price. The price is insignificant if they can afford it, of course, if the benefits are going to meet their needs. So make sure that you're selling on the utilization. How is it going to work? What is going to happen with these plans? Rather than, I've got a great plan for you and it's $150 a month. I would like the least expensive plan. Okay, well, I really don't want to offer you a BMW when you're in the market for a Toyota. What's inexpensive to you? The least expensive plan may not be the best option for you and your family. Can you give me an idea where to start? And then sell the concept, because you will be amazed at someone who told you they want a plan for $100 a month. You go straight to a $100 a month plan. It sounds really good, and maybe they'll take it. But at the same time, if you're automatically making that presentation on your hospital surgical and you didn't even talk about a 573, for example, if you're doing the hospital surgical 573 and you didn't talk about your 533 or 534 or Blue Select 221, that may be so much better for them, and it's only a few dollars more, and that's not that big of a deal when they hear about how it's going to be treated. Talk about the benefits. Sell the benefits, not the price. Because if you're stuck on selling on price, you're not going to have great production. You're going to be selling to the people who are nickeling and dime everyone. And you really want to sell on the concept and how it's going to work. Well, I want to thank everybody for today.